Okay, recently, all the things I've been talking about when it came to Gravity Sketch was the making of things, whether it's objects or it's characters. But I wanted to talk about another very, very powerful way to use Gravity Sketch that doesn't involve necessarily building anything, although you certainly can support building as long as bringing in assets. And that is to actually start with an array of assets that you make outside of Gravity Sketch, although these could certainly be made inside. All of these are assets I've made over the years in SketchUp, and I've exported them in as OBJ files. And I'm going to do something that we do a lot at Walkabout Mini Golf, and I think it aids the theme park business as well. We call it set decoration, but really what it is, it's pre-creating a bunch of assets, and these assets don't necessarily have to be made by you. They could be also purchased, whatever will help you start to assemble your scene as quickly as possible. Any of these assets are something you can pick up and move around and place, and then you can build things around them to create environments. The one most important thing is, because this is a VR experience, these need to be as low poly as possible. Later on in your design, you could add more complexity, but right now, the lower poly you work, the more that you can put into your scene. So I'm going to just do a little faux scene so you can see how this works and how it's so powerful. So first of all, I've got all these options. I've got sort of trees and buildings and signs and lights and stuff. I'm going to just sort of go shopping, and I'm going to grab a person here, copy her just for scale. I'm going to grab a boat because I think I'm going to do a boat ride. And I'm just going to start with them initially. I'm going to come over here. And the reason I brought the person in is because she acts as the scale that I'm going to base this design on. So I'm going to start with a plane. So I'm going to pick out a plane surface and bring it in. And let's say this is going to be the floor of the ride I'm doing. And I'm just going to do a section of a ride so you can see what that might look like. I'm going to edit it, and I'm going to start extruding a path. So let's say that I want this boat to go, this way, and I'm going to have it sort of turn a corner here. And then I'm going to just take the tip here, this thing on the end, and I'm going to just create a line that will represent my flume. So I'm just sort of creating a bottom of the flume. I'm just going to grab the bottom of it, and I'm going to pull this down. I'm going to go over here, pull it down here, and go over here and pull it down as well. Okay, so that's kind of my flume. So let me grab my boat, and let's see, my flume's a little big for my boat, so I'm just going to grab the whole thing and shrink it down a little bit so it's a better fit for the boat. I'm going to put my person here so I understand scale. So I have really quickly, I have a boat, a flume. I'm going to put another boat down here, and maybe one turn of the corner down here. So there we go. As you can see really quickly, just with these assets, not worrying terribly about its scale other than its relationship to the little person here and the boats. And now I'm going to just sort of create a structure around it that I'm going to fill with stuff. So I'm going to edit this again, and I'm going to grab these and pull them out. And I'm going to then just take and sort of create the floor for my show scene. I do the same thing over here. And all I'm doing is I'm pressing the trigger as I pull, and then each of the verts are snapping in place for me. That makes it really easy. Okay, so that's kind of this walkway here is sort of the egress. If there was an emergency, you could step out of your boat. And this is going to represent the scenery. And I'm going to create just some walls around the outside of our show building. And there we go. There, and there. Like I said, I'm not worried about the height or whether or not these are right angles. At the moment, I'm just sort of like really free form, trying to figure out what this ride might be like and how it might feel inside. And the real advantage is, now that I've created this, I can go shopping and start putting stuff in it. So let's just say I'm going to go in here and I'm going to grab some trees. At this point, I don't even have a theme that I'm working with. I'm just going to grab them, and notice that I'm actually just sort of stamping them here. They all still remain here. This means that I can keep coming back to them and grab them again. This acts as my sort of reservoir of scenic pieces. So I'm going to just bring this big tree in here. And let me bring one of these in here, let's say. And I'm going to make one over here. One over here. Really quickly, you start to see that this is a lot like sort of playing dollhouse. I'm taking the pieces here and scaling them in relationship to each other just to see how that would look. Let me put just some of these in here. Okay. Maybe I'll bring another one of these guys in here just to fill it out. Okay, so that's interesting. Let's say that I want to create some rolling hills or some more topography in this terrain. So I'm going to go back to grabbing a plane. So I'm going to grab a plane. Again, I'm going to create a surface like this. This one I'm going to color just so it looks different. So let me just make it a green color just for now. And then I'm going to edit it too, and I'm just going to just segment it. Give it some complexity, something that I can conform. And I'm going to save one over here, and I'm going to copy one over here. And then in its position, I'm going to edit it. So I'm going to just sort of grab these pieces and start to make a really rough sort of terrain that these trees can be in. I don't want to cover up this path that's going along the side of the ride vehicle. I'm just going to tuck that down. Oops, come on. Let me grab you. Come on. There we go. Just add a little bit of messiness to it. And then I can also go in and I can add some more complexity by turning up the subdivisions like we did with the characters, but then I'm going to low poly it so that if I bring this into SketchUp, I'm not creating a nightmare for myself. I'm going to grab another one of these, I'm going to copy it over here. This one I'm going to scale down a little bit. I'm going to do the same thing over here, sort of put it here, and I'm going to edit it. So I'm going to grab a bunch of these, just sort of pull these points, these verts down. Maybe make it up like this. Okay. Not covering up the egress. Maybe this could go down a little bit more so the trees aren't completely buried. There we go. And once again, I'm going to turn on subdivisions, turn up low poly, and I can continue to edit this even though it's... Oh, there we go. So as you can see, now I've got some terrain. So let me go shopping for something else. So let's say I want to grab a fence. I'm going to grab those pieces, make a copy of them. They're all separate, so I'm going to make this a group by pressing the purple button. I'm going to grab an extra one of these, and I'm going to put a fence in my scene. So let's just put that here, there. Just add another one here. I'm going to turn it around like this and grab another one of these. Just do this a little bit. Nope, let me do that. Okay. Grab another terrain over here. I'm going to copy it there. Shrink it. Press edit. And I'm going to sort of pull these parts out. You can really see that now if I had a story I was trying to tell, then there'd be a lot more designing happening. But to start with, I just wanted to show how incredibly fast you can start to create even the most organic environments with found pieces. So let's put that there. We'll do the same subdivision and then low poly. And let's say I want something other than just trees in here. So let me go look around and let's see. I think I had a gypsy wagon at one point, but I think I accidentally deleted it. So let's say, what am I going to use? Well, I don't know. I was going to use the gypsy wagon. So, well, let's take this little building here. I'm going to copy it so I don't do what I did with the gypsy wagon, and I'm going to put that in here. So that's part of my scene. And let's say I want to grab a little foliage here. I'm going to just stick some foliage in. And same with this grass here. I'm going to put some tufts of grass. You can imagine that if I had a lot of assets to work with, I could really, really go to town in here. Let's borrow this tree here and put one here. What other props can we stick in here just while we have them? Let's see, I've got a barrel. That's good. And I've got this grain here. Oops, I forgot my barrel. Come back here, barrel. So there's a barrel. There's a thing of grain. Put that there. So as you can see, really, really quickly, I'm starting to lay out what would conceivably be an attraction if we were doing a theme park. In the case of Walkabout, we do this same technique when we're just started roughing together one of our golf courses, creating the environment, but doing it rather than in a 2D, 3D tool like Blender or Max or Maya, or even SketchUp. We're able to quickly start placing these elements in as we go. One of the things that this definitely is lacking is another plane. So, and let's make some water. So I'm going to make that a blue color. Bring that over here. I'll put it right in here. And I'm going to edit it. I'm going to grab this, and then I'm going to just move over this way. I'm not worried so much about whether this plane is perfectly flat. It's just enough to get an idea. And also, these assets could come in fully painted, textured, so that what you're building looks a lot like what it is you're planning on the finished attraction looking like. But you can really quickly get an idea of how an attraction could be laid out incredibly fast, as long as you have just sort of this array of things to build with. So people who aren't building right now do know that there are low poly assets for sale very inexpensively, and many of them are licensed free, so that you can, once you've paid for them, you can use them. You just bring them into Gravity Sketch with their textures applied to them, and then you can start laying them out in whatever scene that you want. So one other thing I can do too is if I click the blue button and I get these additional menu items, one of the things I can do is grab a light, and I can change the lighting. How it's only one light, but I can change how I'm illuminating the model. One, to make it easier for me to see, but also to see what the mood is like with the changed lighting. And what I can say is that to work in this environment is a lot like going to your happy place, being a kid and starting to arrange things. But because you know you're working at a scale that's in relationship to the vehicle and to the character, that you could conceivably, in just a matter of an hour or two, come up with a rough layout for an attraction that's based on rudimentary kit of parts that you bring in. Another thing that one can do too is that while you're in here, if there's a part that you don't have, you can quickly throw it together here in Gravity Sketch and then assemble your sort of virtual attraction that way. So thanks for coming along, and I hope you get a chance to play with Gravity Sketch, and most importantly, try this technique of bringing in assets that then you can use to assemble your own scenes to get an idea of how they'll work as an attraction or a game. Thanks a lot.